planning and programming. Let's get into it. Hi everyone, welcome to Talk and Chalk. I'm Beck. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to be doing a video on planning and programming, getting ready for term 1. If you're brand new to the channel, all my links and everything are below, including my brand new Instagram. I hope you follow me. If you have been with me the whole time, thank you so much for all of the messages that you've been sending about topic suggestions. I really appreciate it. But for January, I'm sticking with my back to school series. So you would have already seen the icebreakers video that I did. If you haven't, check it out. And I've got lots of great ones coming up that I'll be able to let you know about as we go along. And at the end of this video, I'll let you know some of the other topics I'm going to be doing as well. I really want to get straight into it today because I've got tons of information about this, and anything that I mention, I will link in the description below. So if you're watching this in social media, you'll need to click on the button in YouTube to be able to open up those links. And if you can't find anything, please send me a message on Twitter or the Facebook page to let me know you haven't got it, and I'll see if I can email it through to you or something. So if you're from overseas, this might still be helpful for you because I'm going to be putting some templates and things into a Google Drive that you should be able to access. And again, if you can't, let me know. But I am also going to be referring to a few things that are very specific to New South Wales in Australia's standards. So you might want to skip over those bits if you're from overseas. Otherwise, it might still be helpful for you to have a look at those documents and, see if you can use it to your advantage. So I've got my trusty notebook again. Getting into this today, there's a few things you should make sure that you review or at least read if you haven't touched on them before. If you're an experienced teacher, like our lovely pre-2004 set, yay, we're proficient now. Inside joke for the oldies. If you're a brand new teacher though, you might not have even seen these documents or know that they exist. They are large documents, but they are well worth reading, and really you should be reading them because it's part of your job requirement. So I'm going to link you the New South Wales Department of Education Code of Conduct, and I'm also going to link you the policy standards for programming from the Department of Education, and I'll also link you to NESA as well, so our New South Wales Education Standards Authority, because those things essentially guide what we should be doing in our planning and our programming. Now, sometimes NESA and DoE don't always marry up very well, and that's down to individual schools to interpret and principals to prioritize according to need. Doesn't have to be exactly what it says in there if it's a school directive, if it's a school plan, and if the principal has approved it. So make sure you're guided essentially by your principal overarching anything, and keep everything documented. So my must-haves for planning and programming. You absolutely need a day planner, and I mentioned in my previous video, I'm going to be doing a OneNote day planner review on the new one that's coming out soon. Thanks Megan and Pip who are working on that. Everyone's very excited about it, especially if you're on the Butterfly Wings group and you've seen posts about it. So hopefully that will come out within the next week or so, and I'll be able to do a bit of a review video. I'm not going to look at it beforehand. I'm going to start videoing as soon as I open it up and show you what's inside. So if you've gone out and bought a day planner, it's not a problem. Still use your day planner, do whatever you want. The only difficulty I can see with a OneNote planner and an actual book planner is going to be if a casual comes into the room, they probably won't have access to a digital one. So, big deal. You can always write something out for that one. Having a diary, as in a calendar diary, whether it's an A4 one or an A5 one, whatever works for you, you need to have that there for events, for deadlines, for notes from meetings if you want to take them, just shorthand things as a quick thing to reference and go into. The reason I recommend having a hard copy one of these is because it's handy to have on the fly if you have a random meeting with a colleague that you want to document, if you've had a meeting with a parent that you want to document. Phone calls are the big ones that go in there. So if you've called the counsellor or a parent or local police for whatever reason, document it in there, because that is there to support you in case anything happens down the track. It doesn't have to be anything negative. If something positive happens, that's wonderful, but you've got it there as evidence to say that that actually happened at that time. And as an executive, I recommend it. Actually, no, I urge you to do it as an executive, because there will always be that time where someone comes back and says, oh, but I never heard from you. You go, well, here's my diary, I called you, this is what we spoke about, and here's the other 2 times I called you. Or it's evidence to go, I called and there was no answer. I called and there was no answer. I called and there was no answer, just to back you up. I also like to have, me personally, a notebook, a hardcover notebook to do all my scribbling, all my jotting down, all my random planning in. My program is my program, and I don't want random crap in there. I want that to kind of be my professional working document. If I want to sit down and scribble down stuff to get ideas out, I want it to just be in my general notebook, and that's where I put my ideas and things. And this year, last year, it's 2018 now, I did use it a little less than I normally would because we were going so far into digital, but it came in very, very handy for different things that I was doing, especially when I was learning Dungeons and Dragons and how to implement that in the classroom. It was literally scribble and crap and drawings all through it, but it was how I got through my thought processes, just putting it down on paper. It's always good sometimes to just take, a pencil or a pen and actually put something tangible on paper. Okay, another thing that you can do to prepare, and this is what I do before the term even starts, is just setting up all my folders digitally. Now, I do want to move to that online format, so I'm going to be working on that. But, I get on the Surface Pro, I'll get on the PC or whatever, and I open up a 2018 folder. And for me, I started that last year. I had 2018 planning as an executive, planning classes and structures and responsibilities and everything. So that started last year. But as I get a class, I put my class name and I get my KLA folders there, and then I have a behavior folder and events folder and organization, and just have that ready to go with any subfolders that's necessary. So whatever platform you're using, have your folders ready to go, because then at least when something comes up, dump it straight in. So for me, I'm also using the Google Drive. I opened up a Google folder for my team, and I've already been putting tons and tons of resources in there, which I'm going to show you when I change the camera soon. So, getting all of those things ready, even if you take a device into the classroom like an iPad or whatever, have those folders set up, take off your personal photos, just get it ready to go. I will go into more detail about OneNote itself, but I will show you some elements of my program, and those are things that you can start getting ready before the school goes back without getting ahead of yourself. This is the big thing I really want to stress for everyone. There's a lot of messages out there at the moment saying rest and relax and have a holiday and don't be over prepared and don't worry about it. That's fine, but if you're like me, you've got all these ideas in your head and you can't relax until they're out. I need to get them out, and then I can go and chill and play Xbox or read a book or whatever. If I've got these things churning around in my head, like these things, this is why I have my diary. I have these ideas, get them out, and then I can go play with the kids without all of that stuff still going on in my head. So yes, definitely rest, relax, chill, go visit your friends or whatever. But if you've got things going on in there, jump on, do 30 minutes, get it sorted. This for me is just a good way to get prepared without indulging in getting too much work done. So I'm going to flip to my other camera. I'm going to video my Surface Pro that I'm filming on here, and I'm going to show you some of the templates, which I will link to you for getting started. So I'm going to show you a timetable that I created. I'm just going to show you an old one from last year, and how I break down the subjects. Breaking down the subjects is very important, especially if you're going to get a visit from NESA and get audited. But it's also good for your own practice to get an idea of what percentage of time you're spending on those KLAs and what that equates to in terms of minutes with your kids and how your timetable is structured. Ideally, most schools are doing literacy first, having a break, whether it's recess or lunch, doing numeracy, and then going into the other KLAs. Those things, though, get interrupted by assembly, library, KLAs, special clubs or language classes, things like that. So I don't think anyone anywhere is ever going to have the perfect timetable that they always wanted. It's just not going to work out that way. If you have, you're a legend. Otherwise, we just go with the flow and deal with it, and we need to be flexible as teachers. We need to understand that that time with the librarian is just as important as the time with the community languages teacher. So our room might be our room, but our school is a collaborative place where we need to share and respect each other's programs. Okay. Before we get into that, I want to remind people, though, as well, that essentially when you're doing these things, you're keeping in mind that you're going to be on a team. If you're in a small school, it might be you yourself, but your school is still your team. There's still other things that are going to come into place. So the things like the library timetable, the language timetable, whatever, you shouldn't be making your timetable, your class timetable, until you have that information. You can start it out and drop in, like I said, literacy, maths, whatever, and then go back and modify as needed. But don't put it into your head that you're going to get to have literacy every morning perfectly the way that you want it. So be aware that, when you go in, You really should be reacting to those timetables that you get given. And really, there's no point getting into everything, because we know in those first few weeks things can change. I was on a year 3 class once that was, a 2-3 class that was meant to be an extension class, and the numbers just rolled in and it ended up being a straight 3 class and ended up with a whole bunch of different kids. And that was at the end of week 3 that happened. So I already had name tags and books and everything ready to go. They already had a couple of pages of work in there, and it all changed. It can change. Be prepared for that. You might be in a school that's pretty stable. Numbers are pretty stable. It's not going to change, but you never know. All right, I'm going to switch around now and show you some of those templates. Okay, so this is the Google Drive I started for my team. So I've got policy and procedure, advanced KLAs, learning attention, success criteria, Minecraft, because we're doing that year, professional learning, progressions, which is coming, and roles and responsibilities. That's all I've got so far. But I mean, if you go into policy and procedure, I've got all of these here. Now, obviously, I haven't put every policy or procedure the department has. It would just take up too much space. These are ones that are pertinent to my team, the main ones that they really should know. Things like the dress code, which was updated, I think that was 2014 or 15 that was updated. Aboriginal policy, the behaviour code for students, all those things that are there really quickly and easily for them to have a look at. And the one I'm going to link you guys here will stem from this. It's the curriculum planning and programming, assessing and reporting to parents K-12. This is the document that you really should have a look through and make sure you know what the expectations are for teachers. Okay, I think I'll just close that so I don't keep going back to it. All right, so this is my program in OneNote, and our amazing AP librarian created this document for us, and she's going to have another template for us for 2018, which is why I haven't even started, because she'll have something for us. But I mean, if I click on my name, you'll see that what I had for 2017 was I had my PDP notes, my class overview, plan, my timetables, my L3 templates, and then I went into term 1, 2, 3, 4, modifications, and I do have some more tabs here. I had a prac student, so there was my prac student notes, that's the leader space, and this was a presentation that I had to put together. So, I mean, if I just, I don't know, term 3 I'll randomly go to. So there's some assessment results that I had. These were target areas. Sorry, I'm going into the wrong section now. These were just different ones that were in there. I think these are my templates. These are other notes. So you can see like the subjects and things down the side though. So that's where I went into those ones. So I'm just going to come out to a different spot. And, oh no, my battery's about to die. I'm going to switch. All right, I've just switched, put my battery in so that you can see. All right, so this was a weekly timetable. I've just gone back to term 3. So you can see I've got times down the side, the days, and then the session breakdown. And they're color-coded, they're color-coded because of the support that I had in the classroom. So if you've seen my previous videos, you'll know I had some significant needs in the class, and I had some support in the classroom. So the blue is when I had a support person in there. The purple is when students were withdrawn for Vietnamese class. The yellow was when I had support from our Aboriginal education officer. And then in the green was where I had my release, my teacher release, my executive release, and LST. So you can tell where it was random across there. I've made sure I highlighted there where I had fruit break. I think fruit break is important. And then we had lunch first and recess second. And then down here, you can see this is where, those interruptions come in. So in weeks 2, 6, and 10, my class went to the culture room. In the weeks 3, 5, 7, and 9, we had an assembly. And then weeks 1, 4, and 8, they worked on a STEM project. So it can get a bit chaotic. But this is where I did my breakdown. So this was the breakdown of KLAs. So I worked out that our teaching time across the week was 1,450 minutes. That does not include recess or lunch. That was total teaching time. And then what I did was I calculated how many minutes each week for each KLA and other fits into a category as well. So anything that was left over was in other. And then this was the percentage of the time. So this is the percentage based on that 1450 minutes. And then I put down whether it was over or under according to the NESA breakdown. So this is NESA's breakdown, which I will share with you guys, and you can find it on their website. And they talk about it in percentages. They don't talk about it in minutes. DoE does talk about it in minutes, and it does say approximately. And then what I do is I make my own graph and compare it. Now, this was made before we made some modifications where you can see it's, you know, significantly different. So this is why I do this. So I can look at this and go, hang on a second, where am I missing out? Where am I not doing enough of the other stuff, and what do I need to change? So once you look at that, that's when you can, you know, either talk to your executive, talk to your principal, as a stage, as a team, as a school, whatever, and talk about what needs to be modified. And if there's something maybe you're doubling up on. So for example, you know, I've got library in here, but really library was also coming under science and technology. So I could increase my time in science and technology and bring it up to expectation by remembering that what we're actually studying in the library at that time was one of these other KLAs. So it really is good in terms of investigating what you're doing with all of your minutes in that week and making it viable. So I mean, that STEM project that I was talking about, I didn't include that in these minutes. I guess it kind of came under other time, but really that could have gone under science, could have gone under creative arts or history, depending on what we were doing in the actual project. Okay, this is my class breakdown, and I've just moved it so that you can't see student names, but you can see I put their date of birth. I didn't have any students with high medical concerns like anaphylaxis or anything, but that's where that column would go. Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander, you can see we had high non-English speaking background students, or EALD, so that was the home language there. If they're allowed to have their photos published, which is there. And then I had additional information on the side here. So you can see I had, you know, cerebral palsy, selective mutism, and then these other needs like glasses, out of home care, or any other diagnoses. Now I don't go into detail there because this is what I give a casual teacher when they're coming into the room, just so at that snapshot they know that there's those students with high needs. And this goes in my program as well. I'll give you a template for this as well without the information in there. You should be able to chop and change it as needed, but that's always handy to have at least the template set up ready to go, so you can just copy and paste it straight into it if you need it later on. Okay, so you can see they're really basic, they're just templates, so I'll link all of that to you and hope that it works. Another thing that you can do to start preparing is just drawing a bit of a diagram, whether it's digitally or hand drawn, of your classroom. And I do not mean a seating arrangement. You guys know I'm all about flexible learning, so I'm not talking about allocated seating. I'm talking about where things are in your room. So at least that way, if a casual teacher comes in, let's pretend you've broken your leg in the second week, they know where the dictionaries are, where the bookshelf is, where the maths resources are, where the home reading is. So bit of paper and literally just draw, you know, blocks or whatever, wherever they are, and label wherever they are. And then that way they're ready to go. Just on the off chance that someone needs to find something and you can't be there, you've got a copy of it, you can take a picture of it, send it in, email it, put it on your digital program, whatever. Just have that ready to go. Really, you shouldn't be necessarily drawing out tables and chairs and things if you like doing things the way I do, because that furniture is going to constantly be moving. It's always good to take photos of your room though as well and have that in your program. It's a lovely thing to document and keep for reflecting on later on, so you can see how you're growing and changing, or look back and go, do you know what, that worked really, really well and I haven't tried that in a few years, might give that a go again. Okay, I'm just checking my notebook to see what else I had. Scope and sequences. So if your school has an established scope and sequence, you may know what units are coming up for the entire year. Maybe not necessarily in what order, but you know what's going to be happening. This is good for planning excursions and things like that. So this is the chance to, I guess, Google, see what you want to go to, look up camps or excursions or bus tours or whatever you want to look at. Maybe even have a visit over the holidays and check out some places. If you call beforehand, or depending if you're a member of Federation or anything like that, you can get into a lot of places for free. Places like the aquarium. If you go to Canberra, there is actually a card that you can get. It's a teacher card I'm going to look up the thing and put it in the link for you in the description for you below, because I sent off for it. You go to the website, you put in your details, you verify that you're a teacher, and they send you this card that gets you discounts off tons of places in Canberra, like accommodation, like Questacon, like the Institute of Sport, all of those things. And you can get in for free or at a discounted rate. They're really, really good. So holidays would be a great time to use it. And then you can start planning to match things to your scope and sequence. Realistically though, if you've got a unit for those things, so for example, we use Primary Connections. However, Primary Connections is not the unit, it's a resource. So it has lesson plans in it, it has guides in it, but it doesn't necessarily cover all of the outcomes that you're trying to cover, or it may not integrate properly into whatever it is that you're trying to tie it into, whether it's digital technologies or Genius Hour or whatever. Utilize it as a resource. So the unit that you've got, you should still be modifying for your kids and reactively programming to suit their interests and their needs. So if I picked up a Primary Connections unit and in that first couple of weeks have realized that they already know all of that content that's in there that I'm going to go through for the next term, I should be responding to that and modifying as needed. And the same goes for any unit that you're programming. So anyone who's sitting there and got a maths program ready to go, that's your starting point. That's a good starting point, because you need to be responding to any data that you've got, any behaviors that come out of it. And I'm not talking about social behaviors, I'm talking about their performance behaviors. If they've got great problem solving skills, but they're still not meeting some kind of expectation, you're going to have to modify what you're doing, and that may not necessarily be in that unit that you've already got. And we have tons of people sharing units, which are awesome. But you've got to remember, your class is your class, that person's class is that person's class. They're not always going to be the same. They're not always going to have the same needs, and we need to be reactive to that. And the benefit you've got is your team. We should be planning collaboratively. There's so much expertise that each person has, and you should be utilizing it. So chances are when you sit down on that first staff development day, like I'm going to be doing with my team, I know they've all got something different to bring to the table. And each person is going to have their own perspective on the best way to learn, the best way to teach. So that's what I'm going to be looking at when I sit with them and meet. Okay. Okay, last note that I had for this one. When you're looking at the very first couple of weeks of school, I'm talking first 2-3 weeks of term 1, I plan that completely separately. So I use the icebreakers, I use things like Australia Day or Chinese New Year to get some activities out. And really you should be looking at getting those kids back to where they were at the end of term 4. So when you get your class, chances are there should be data that goes along with it. And we know that data is not the be all and end all of our kids, but it's a good reference point. And if your school is on par with each other and you have good, consistent teacher judgment, you'll be able to trust the information that was sent from the previous teacher. And if you don't, go and have that conversation. Find out what that child was like in term 4 and where they were at. That's benefit of us, is having those relationships where we can openly talk to each other and go, that kid's not performing the way it says they should be performing. What's the go? And then, look at those activities that they can do, whether it's revision, reviewing, if you're doing, not back to basics, back to general practice that they should be doing in the classroom. That's where you're going to be starting off at. And those first few weeks too, you really want to dedicate time to establishing your expectations in the classroom. Bringing me to one of my videos that's going to be coming up, which is how to establish good explicit classroom practices. So keep an eye out for that video. I'm going to go into much more detail about that one and how you can do that. But for today, that's the end of that one. If any of the links don't work, please just let me know. I think if I keep talking, I'm just going to be rambling now. I'm videoing on a very hot day today. All right. I'm going to put my button down here, so if you haven't subscribed, you can hover over that and click on it. I'll put my Icebreakers video up there, so in case you missed it, you'll be able to click on that and have a look. And join me for the continuation of my summer series, talking about the OneNote program, classroom expectations, and just generally how to prepare your classroom as well. So look out for those videos. Thanks, guys. Bye.